I distinctly remember the time in my life where I realized I could sing. I would often hear one of my uncles vocalizing, and often I would mock or imitate him because I too realized I could hold a note. However, in time, I would be reminded by both family and friends in school that both my speaking voice and my singing voice weren't like other boys. Why do you always sound like a girl? A constant thing that people would ask me, and a constant reminder that my voice was soft. While this led to me being super self-conscious about both my speaking and my singing voice, I always remember the time in school that I sang in front of the class, and one of my teachers said, "You sound like a young Luther Vandross." I was giddy because I saw how my family responded to his music. Being called a young Luther Vandross was a big deal for me because I knew my mother and family would always play Luther Vandross. Hell, my uncle sang Here and Now at my sister's wedding. Luther Vandross was and still is a big part of some of my core memories. In the words of my mother, Luther Vandross could sang, not just sing, but sang. I ran home and told my mother. I distinctly remember her just hugging me and smiling. She never really said much about the moment after that. But I can always remember the slight silence my mother carried around the moment when I told others I could sing like Luther Vandross, and how the world responded to me when I mentioned Luther being my all-time favorite singer. Now, for the sake of this chapter, I have to say that before I go into unpacking that moment and the importance that Luther Ronzoni Vandross Jr. had in my story, this chapter is not about whether Luther was queer. So much of what I will be discussing going forward is about the ways the world treated me like they did Luther, specifically the speculation around his sexuality and the impact that it had on his mental health.